Mercedes-Benz cars, Mercedes-Benz vans, and Mercedes EQ.
The only Muslim-owned Mercedes-Benz dealership in Johannesburg.
Asia Pacific Report on Sabahul Muslim.
Well, we are joined by Walden Bello for this week's Asia Pacific Report. Walden's focus is on the Global South. He is an academic, environmentalist, journalist, and a human rights activist. Very good morning to you, South African time, and welcome, Walden.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning. Thank you for inviting me on to your program.
Let's start with the continuing deep freeze in the relations between China and Japan. Tell us about the latest there.
Well, the latest is that China has canceled the youth exchange programs with Japan. And this is part of a series of moves in which Beijing end is to get the Japanese Prime Minister, Sanae Takaichi, to retract her statement that she made 2.5 weeks ago that Japan would militarily respond if there were a Chinese blockade of Taiwan. And as we all know, Taiwan belongs to China, and that's been an international recognition of China's sovereignty over Taiwan, although, of course, as we all know, realpolitik has it that Taiwan continues to de facto behave like an independent state. But what's happening now is, that people are wondering why the Japanese Prime Minister made that statement during a parliamentary hearing, because the practice of previous prime ministers was to have strategic ambiguity over Taiwan, although it was understood that Japan would respond in the event of a contingency, not to make that explicit. Takaichi broke that, and there are a number of explanations. One is she might have just been, as a new prime minister, learning the ropes. She made a mistake. So that's one. The second thing is that people thought it was deliberate in order to raise her status at the polls, make her more popular by standing up to China. And the third is that, and which I think is the reality, is that she really wanted to get Trump to back her up and affirm the U.S.-Japan relationship, especially at a time when there's really been no declaration by the Trump administration that would underline the priority of the Asia-Pacific region and, of course, the Japan-U.S. alliance. So my only other point here is to say that if that was her intention, she did not get it. She did not get it from Washington.
Tell us about the deepening crisis then over corruption in Philippines.
Well, there was this Sunday, which was National Heroes Day in the Philippines. There were two competing responses to the corruption crisis, and one was held at what we call the EDSA Revolution Memorial, and the other was held at Luneta, the one of the national parks in the Philippines. And the one at EDSA, basically the speech was delivered, the main speech was delivered by the leading cardinal in the Philippines, Cardinal David. And people were disturbed because it was basically saying those people at the other rally that was also anti-corruption really were making a mistake attending that rally. So instead of a show of unity, you now have a grand display of disunity, over strategy and tactics on how to deal with the corruption issue, because the people at the other rally wanted both the president and the vice president to resign, Sara Duterte and Ferdinand Marcos, because they've been implicated in corruption scandals. And the people at the first rally basically were afraid that calling for Marcos, the president, to resign might mean that Sara Duterte might become president, and they're worried that that would bring about a kind of the road to dictatorship, because of the record of the Duterte families as violators of human rights.
Finally, then tell us about the natural disasters in Thailand owing to climate change and a big fire in Hong Kong.
Yes, this is very serious, because the monsoon is getting more and more unpredictable because of climate change and the phenomenon called El Nino. And in southern Thailand and over Sumatra and Indonesia and northern Malaysia, you had basically tremendous flooding. And that was especially the case in Hat Yai, where more than 100 people were killed or died. And this was because of both the rains, tremendous rains, as well as government failure to address the drainage problem, infrastructure problem. And that means that it's now created a political crisis for the Prime Minister of Thailand, who's been accused of not really paying attention to the disaster as it unfolded. So that's what's happening. And of course, finally on the fire in Hong Kong, this was very tragic. Some close to 100 people died in high-rise fire, and people are still investigating what happened. And they think that it was undergoing the residential complex, high-rise residential complex, was undergoing renovation, and that a lot of the sheets, the plastic sheets, that were there for the renovation contributed to the fire, and then people were also quite upset that the response of the firefighters to the fire was very inadequate. And you see, the image of Hong Kong has been one of efficiency, and so people were really shocked that this happened, and it's now worse than the Grenville fire in London in terms of the casualties that it has caused. So very tragic in Hong Kong.
Indeed. Walden, thank you so much for your time and for chatting to us. Much appreciated.
Okay, we'll see you.
Thank you. Time now for the headlines, then the recitation of Surah Yasin.